You're a waitress from a one-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town. You don't fit into the life we're building. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. Sloane Montgomery stood in her wedding dress. All white silk and diamonds catching the afternoon light through the glass doors of Willowbrook Country Club. Her blue eyes were cold as January ice. Behind her, I could hear the string quartet playing something classical, expensive, the kind of music people like me weren't supposed to understand. I'm Rosamund Walsh, 67 years old, standing in my navy dress from Macy's clearance rack, holding a purse I'd owned for 12 years. My son Corbin was getting married today, except my name wasn't on the guest list. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Sloane adjusted one of her gloves, real silk, probably the kind that cost more than my monthly rent. Corbin and I decided together who belongs here. People who fit into our lives, people who add value. My throat felt tight. The champagne smell drifting from inside made my stomach turn. I'm his mother. You're a waitress. She said it like the word tasted bad in her mouth. Corbin's moving up in the world now. He's joining my family's business. We have a certain standard to maintain. The floor shifted under my feet. 25 years of double shifts at Henderson's Diner. 25 years of bleeding into my shoes every night so he could have piano lessons, college tuition, a future I'd never have. All of it leading to this moment, to standing outside my own son's wedding like a stranger. Does Corbin know you're saying this to me? Corbin knows everything. Sloane tilted her head. Why do you think your name isn't on the list? He's grateful for what you did when he was young. He really is. But that part of his life is over now. Time to move forward. Behind me, someone laughed. A sharp sound that cut through the music. The valet was watching us. So was the woman at the coat check. Everyone seeing the waitress mother get put in her place. I want to hear this from him. He's busy. It's his wedding day. Sloane turned to go, then paused. You should be proud. Your job is done. She smiled small, satisfied. Now, please leave before you embarrass yourself further. And Corbin, she walked back through those gleaming doors. Her dress trailed behind her like a white river. Through the glass, I watched her rejoin a group of people in expensive suits. They laughed at something, she said. She tossed her hair and disappeared into the crowd of people who belonged. I stood there breathing. The parking lot stretched out behind me. Cars worth more than I'd made in 5 years lined up in perfect rows. My old Toyota sat at the far end, rust spots on the hood catching the sun. Felicity Chen, the event coordinator, stood nearby. Her face had that careful expression people wear when they pity you. Mrs. Walsh, I'm so sorry. Don't be. My voice came out steady, calm. I understand perfectly. I walked to my car. The asphalt was hot under my shoes. Somewhere a bird sang. The world kept turning like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just been erased from my own son's life. The Toyota's trunk opened with its familiar squeak. Under the spare tire, wrapped in an old blanket, sat a metal box locked. The key hung on my necklace, hidden under my dress where it had been for 20 years. I pulled out the box, heavy, solid, real. For the first time all day, I smiled. The drive home took 30 minutes. The box sat on my passenger seat, catching light every time I passed under street lamp. My hands didn't shake on the wheel. My eyes stayed dry. I'd cried plenty over the years. Cried when Corbin's father walked out. Cried when the rent went up and I had to choose between groceries and electricity. Cried when Corbin got into college and I had to figure out how to pay for it. I was done crying. The apartment building looked the same as always. Cracked concrete steps. Mrs. Chen's wind chimes singing in the breeze. The neighbor's dog barking through thin walls. Home for 15 years. Not because I had to be here, because I chose to be. Inside my apartment, I set the box on the kitchen table. The metal was cool under my fingers. 20 years I'd kept this secret. 20 years of playing a role so perfect even my own son believed it. I thought about Corbin as a baby, 3 months old when his father left. Gerald Walsh, who couldn't handle the pressure of fatherhood, who walked out in the middle of the night with nothing but a note on the counter. I can't do this. I'm sorry. I'd held Corbin that morning, rocking him in the empty apartment, wondering how I'd survive. 24 years old, no college degree, no family to help, just me and a baby and bills I couldn't pay. Then, Uncle Raymond died. The key was cold against my palm as I unlocked the box. Inside, legal documents stacked neat and precise. Property, deeds, stock certificates, bank statements, and on top, a photograph of Uncle Raymond in his office, standing next to a sign that read Montgomery Industries. Gerald never knew about Uncle Raymond. Never knew that the uncle who'd helped raise me had built a fortune in commercial real estate. Never knew that when Raymond died 6 months after Gerald left, he'd left everything to me. His only niece, the girl he taught to play chess, to think 3 moves ahead, to never show your hand until you're ready to win. $15 million in assets, including 60% controlling shares of Montgomery Industries, Sloane's family business. I spread the documents across my table. Each one a piece of the puzzle I'd been building for 25 years. The apartment lease in my name, the Toyota's registration, my Henderson's diner pay stubs. All real, all true. The life I'd built as Rosamund Walsh, waitress, struggling single mother. All of it was real and all of it was a choice. The thing about wealth is it changes you. I'd seen it happen to Gerald's friends, to people who came into money suddenly. They forgot where they came from. Forgot what mattered. I didn't want that for Corbin. Didn't want him growing up soft, entitled, thinking the world owed him something just for existing. So, I became a waitress, rented this apartment, drove that car, worked those double shifts until my feet bled. And I saved Uncle Raymond's fortune, letting it grow in accounts Corbin never knew existed, letting the Montgomery shares appreciate while I served coffee and cleaned tables and smiled at customers who didn't see me. Teaching my son the value of hard work, of sacrifice, of character built through struggle. I'd planned to tell him everything at his wedding, my gift to him and his bride. The revelation that his mother wasn't the poor waitress he thought she was, that he came from strength, that our family had power. That was before Sloane told me I didn't fit into their life. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unknown number. Please don't contact Corbin anymore. It's better this way. Loan. I picked up the photograph of Uncle Raymond. He was smiling in that picture, standing in front of the company he'd built from nothing. Never play your hand too early, Rosie, he used to say. Let them think they've won. Then show them what power really looks like. Another document caught my eye. A letter from Marcus Montgomery Sloane's father dated 3 years ago. One of many. Mrs. Walsh, I'm prepared to offer you $20 million for your shares. This is my final offer. Please consider the benefits of liquidating your position. I'd never responded, not to that letter or the dozen others like it. Marcus Montgomery had been trying to buy me out for years, desperate to consolidate control of his own company. He had no idea the poor waitress holding his family's future was serving him coffee every Tuesday morning when he stopped at Henderson's diner. The irony wasn't lost on me. Outside, the sun was setting. Golden light stretched across my kitchen floor, touching the documents, the photograph, the life I'd built in secret. Corbin was probably cutting his cake right now, dancing with Sloane, celebrating his new life with people who added value. My phone rang. Corbin's name flashed on the screen. The first call since he told me 3 months ago that things were going to change, that good changes were coming. I stared at his name, let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I set the phone down and let it go to voicemail. The second call came 30 minutes later, then a third, a fourth. My phone buzzed against the table like an angry wasp. Corbin's name appeared again and again, each call more desperate than the last. I made tea instead. The kettle's whistle filled my small kitchen. Steam rose in delicate curls. I poured slowly, watching the water turn amber as it hit the tea bag. Simple, real, mine. The voicemail started piling up. I didn't listen to them. Not yet. Call number 7 came from a different number. Marcus Montgomery. I knew his number by heart after years of his letters, his attempts to reach me through intermediaries, his growing desperation to control what I owned. This time I answered, Mrs. Walsh. His voice was tight. Controlled panic underneath professional courtesy. Thank God we need to talk. It's urgent. I said nothing. Just listened to him breathe on the other end of the line. There's been a situation at the wedding. Someone informed Sloane about your position in the company. I don't know who, but the information is out now and we need to discuss how to handle this appropriately. Handle what, Mr. Montgomery? Your shares, your majority position. We need to talk about the future of Montgomery Industries and how we can work together to ensure stability for everyone involved. I took a sip of tea. It was too hot. Burn my tongue. I didn't care. Everyone involved. That's an interesting phrase. Mrs. Walsh, please. I understand there was an incident today. Sloane told me what happened at the reception. It was inappropriate, unacceptable. I apologize on behalf of my family. You're apologizing for your daughter telling me I don't fit into your family's life. Silence on his end. Then she was out of line, but you have to understand the position we are in now. The board meets Monday morning. If word gets out that our majority shareholder was denied entry to a family wedding, the optics alone could tank our stock price. And if you decide to sell to Cole, Jameson Cole has been calling you, hasn't he? More silence. Longer this time. He called me. I continued. Made quite an offer. Double market value for my shares. He's wanted your company for years, Marcus. You know that. Mrs. Walsh, please. Let's meet tomorrow. We can discuss this properly. Work out an arrangement that benefits everyone. Benefits everyone. You keep saying that. Who exactly is everyone? Because today I learned I'm not included in that category. That's not true. Your family now. Corbin married my daughter. We are connected. Am I family, Marcus? Because your daughter seemed very clear that I'm just a waitress from a bad part of town who doesn't add value. His breathing changed, got heavier. What do you want? Name it. We can make this right. I sat down my tea. The cup clinked against the saucer. I don't want anything from you. I never have. That's what you've never understood. Then why hold the shares? Why not sell? Why play this game? I'm not playing a games. I'm living my life. The same life I've lived for 25 years. The same life your daughter thought was beneath her. Mrs. Walsh. Goodbye, Marcus. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. Corbin Marcus. A number I didn't recognize. Then Sloane's number appeared. The first time she'd ever called me directly. I declined it. A text came through, then another, then 5 more in rapid succession. Corbin. Mom, please pick up. Corbin, I need to talk to you. Corbin, it's important. Marcus, we need to resolve this before market open Monday. Sloane, Mrs. Walsh, I apologize for my comments. Please call me back. Corbin, Mom, please, I'm begging you. I turned the phone face down on the table. Outside, the street lights flickered on. Mrs. Chen's wind chime sang in the evening breeze. Somewhere a child laughed. Life going on like always. Like the world hadn't just tilted on its axis. My tea had gone cold. I poured it down the sink and made a fresh cup. The phone buzzed 12 more times in the next hour. Each vibration against the table like a small earthquake. I counted them. Didn't look at the screen. Just counted. When it hit 18 missed calls, I picked up the phone. But I didn't call Corbin. Didn't call Marcus. Didn't call Sloane who'd sent 3 more texts. Each one more desperate than the last. I called James Cole. He answered on the first ring. Mrs. Walsh. I was hoping you'd call. You told them. I may have mentioned to a mutual acquaintance that the Montgomery family should treat their majority shareholder with more respect. What they did with that information was their choice. You crashed my son's wedding. I informed relevant parties of relevant facts. What happened after that wasn't my doing. He paused, though I heard it was quite a scene. Sloane apparently fainted when someone told her you could dissolve the company with a single vote. Marcus had to excuse himself from the reception. And your son, well, let's just say the honeymoon may be delayed. I should have felt guilty. Should have felt something other than this cold satisfaction spreading through my chest. Your offer still stands. Double market value. For you, Mrs. Walsh. I'd go higher. Montgomery Industries would be the crown jewel of my portfolio. I've wanted it for 10 years. Marcus knows this. He's been bleeding money, trying to keep me from acquiring any shares, even minor positions. If you sell to me, I'd have controlling interest immediately. The board would have no choice but to accept my restructuring plans, which would include replacing Marcus as CEO, dissolving the current board, installing my people, standard acquisition procedure. Some positions would be eliminated. Most of the executive team would be replaced. It's nothing personal, just business. And Corbin. My son joined the company last month. He'd be let go first round of cuts. Again, nothing personal. He's too inexperienced for the positions we'd need filled. I'm sure he'd land somewhere eventually. He has his Harvard degree, doesn't he? That should count for something. My hand tightened on the phone. When can we meet? I have my lawyers ready. We could do this tonight if you want. I'm downtown. My office. Contracts are already drawn up. All you have to do is sign and Monday morning everything changes. Give me 2 hours. Mrs. Walsh, this is the right decision. You deserve better than how they treated you today. I hung up. The apartment felt very quiet. My tea had gone cold again. I hadn't touched it. Outside, the moon was rising over the apartment buildings. Silver light cutting through the darkness. My phone buzzed. Another voicemail. This time, I listened. Corbin's voice cracked through the speaker. Mom, please. I know I don't deserve it. I know I messed up, but please just call me back. Let me explain. Let me fix this. Delete another voicemail. Sloan, this time. Mrs. Walsh, I made a terrible mistake. I didn't know. No one told me. Please don't punish Corbin for my ignorance. He didn't know either. We can fix this. We can make this right. Delete Marcus again. Mrs. Walsh Cole called me. Told me you two are meeting tonight. Please don't do this. Think about Corbin. Think about his future. This would destroy everything he's worked for. Everything you worked to give him. I stopped the message, played it again. Everything you worked to give him. That phrase stuck in my throat like a bone. Everything I worked to give him. The double shifts, the bleeding feet, the cramped apartment, the sacrifice. All of it so he could have opportunities one never had. So he could rise above the life I'd chosen to live. And he had risen. Risen so high he couldn't see me anymore. The final voicemail was Corbin again, crying this time. Actually crying. Mom, I'm so sorry. She told me you'd be embarrassing, that you'd ruin everything. That people would judge me if they knew you were just a waitress. I was weak. I was stupid. I let her convince me you wouldn't fit in. But I was wrong. God, I was so wrong. Please don't destroy us. Please don't sell to Cole. I'll do anything. Anything. His voice broke completely. I love you, Mom. I know I don't deserve to say that after what I did, but I love you. Please, please, just give me a chance to make this right. But I sat there listening to him sob through the phone. My son, my baby boy, who used to climb into my lap when he was scared. Who used to tell me he'd take care of me when he grew up. Who used to look at me like I hung the moon. The contract folder sat on my table. All I had to do was drive downtown, sign my name, watch Monday morning as Marcus Montgomery lost everything. As Corbin's new job vanished, as Sloane's perfect life crumbled, justice clean, simple, deserved. I picked up my car keys, but I didn't drive downtown. I drove across town to Henderson's Diner, the place where I'd worked for 25 years, where I'd bled into my shoes and smiled at customers and pretended to be exactly what they saw. The night manager, Teresa, looked up when I walked in. Rosand, what are you doing here? Isn't today your son's wedding? It was. I slid into my usual booth. The vinyl was cracked in familiar places. Can I get some coffee? And she brought me a cup, strong black, the same coffee I'd been serving for 25 years. You okay? No. I wrapped my hands around the cup. But I will be. She patted my shoulder and left me alone. The diner was nearly empty. Just 2 truckers at the counter and an old man reading a newspaper in the corner. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of grease and coffee filled the air. This place had been my refuge for so long. My cover story, my choice. I'd bought Henderson's Diner 3 years ago. Used some of Uncle Raymond's money, kept it quiet, kept my name off the paperwork. Teresa didn't know she was working for me. None of them did. I just kept showing up for shifts, kept playing my part, kept teaching my son that work mattered more than wealth. Except he'd learned a different lesson. He'd learned that wealth was what mattered, that people who didn't have it didn't fit, that his waitress mother was an embarrassment he needed to leave behind. My phone buzzed. 23 missed calls now. I thought about Corbin at 8 years old sitting at this same booth while I finished my shift. Mama, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house with a yard and a pool. You won't have to work anymore. I'd smiled at him then. I don't need a big house, sweetheart. I just need you to be happy. I'll make you proud, he'd said. I promise. The coffee burned going down. I drank it anyway. Sloane had manipulated him. That much was clear from his voicemail. She'd convinced him I was an embarrassment, that I didn't fit, that my presence would ruin their perfect day, and he'd believed her, chosen her version of reality over 25 years of sacrifice. That was the part that cut deepest, not that she'd said those things, but that he'd let her, that he'd agreed. That when faced with choosing between his mother and his new life, he'd chosen the new life without even telling me. I finished my coffee, Teresa refilled it without asking. You want to talk about it? She asked. Not tonight. She nodded and walked away. Good people knew when to leave you alone. The diner's clock ticked toward midnight. Jameson Cole was probably waiting in his office, contracts ready, wondering why I hadn't shown up. Marcus was probably panicking, calling lawyers, trying to figure out how to salvage Monday morning. Sloane was probably crying into her expensive wedding dress. And Corbin was probably realizing exactly what he'd lost. But sitting in this booth, drinking this coffee in this diner I secretly owned, I realized something. Revenge was easy. Signing those papers would have been so easy. Watching them all suffer would have felt good for about 5 minutes. Then what? Then I'd be exactly what Sloane thought I was. Someone who didn't add value. Someone who tore things down instead of building them up. Someone who let bitterness win. Uncle Raymond used to say that real power wasn't about destruction. It was about choice, about deciding what mattered and what didn't. About knowing when to play your hand and when to fold. I pulled out my phone. 27 missed calls. Now the voicemails had stopped. Just text messages. Desperate, broken, begging. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called my lawyer, Richard Abrams, who'd handled Uncle Raymond's estate, who'd maintained my anonymity for 25 years, who probably thought I'd gone crazy living in a tiny apartment while sitting on $15 million. He answered on the third ring. Rosamund, it's nearly midnight. I need you to draft a trust tonight. Can you do that? A trust for what? For teaching my son what I should have taught him all along. I told him what I wanted. He was quiet for a long time. Then are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. I'll have it ready by mornings. I hung up and finished my coffee. Outside, the city lights glowed against the dark sky. Somewhere across town in a country club with crystal chandeliers and white roses. My son's wedding reception was probably ending. Guests going home. Music fading. The perfect day collapsing under the weight of secrets revealed. I left money on the table for the coffee and walked out to my car. Tomorrow things would change, but not the way anyone expected. The Montgomery estate sat on 5 acres in the most expensive part of town. I'd driven past it before. Wondered what it would be like to live somewhere like that. All that space, all that luxury, all those things that were supposed to matter. It was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning when I pulled up to the gate. The house was lit up like Christmas. Every window glowing. Someone was awake. Everyone was awake. I pressed the intercom button. Yes, Marcus's voice crackled through the speaker. He sounded exhausted. It's Rosalind Walsh. We need to talk. The gate opened immediately. The driveway curved through manicured gardens. Even in the dark, I could see the money, the marble fountain, the imported trees, the kind of perfection that required a full-time staff to maintain. This was Sloane's world, the world she'd been born into, the world she thought I didn't belong in. She was right. I didn't belong here. Not because I wasn't good enough, because I'd never wanted this. Marcus opened the front door before I could knock. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since the wedding. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes red. Mrs. Walsh, thank you for coming. Please come in. The house was exactly what I expected. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, art on the walls worth more than most people made in a lifetime. Beautiful, cold, empty of anything that mattered. Sloane sat on a cream-colored couch in the living room. Her wedding dress was gone, replaced by jeans and a sweatshirt. Her makeup was ruined. Black streaks down her face. She looked young, suddenly scared. Not the cold woman who dismissed me at the country club. Corbin stood by the window. He turned when I walked in. His face crumpled. Mom. I held up my hand. Don't. He stopped. Marcus gestured to a chair. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Water. Coffee. I'm fine. I remain standing. Where's your wife? Lydia went to bed. She has a migraine. This whole situation has been very stressful for everyone. I imagine it has been. Sloane stood up. Mrs. Walsh. I owe you an apology. What I said to you today was inexcusable. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know about your position in the company. I had no idea that I mattered. She flinched. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? You made it very clear today that I don't fit into your life, that I don't add value, that I'm just a waitress from a bad part of town. Did knowing I owned 60% of your family's company change any of that? Or did it just change how you need to treat me? Both her voice cracked. I was wrong about all of it. I judged you based on appearances, on money, on things that don't actually matter. And I convinced Corbin that you'd be embarrassing, that his mother being a waitress would reflect poorly on him. I was shallow and cruel, and I'm so sorry. I looked at Corbin. He hadn't moved from the window. And you? What do you have to say? I don't have words. His voice was rough. I don't have words for how badly I failed you. How badly I betrayed everything you taught me. You worked yourself to death for me. Sacrificed everything. And the first chance I got to choose between you and wealth, I chose wealth. You chose Sloane. I chose comfort. I chose easy. I chose the life where I didn't have to struggle. He wiped his face. You raised me to be better than that. You showed me every day what real strength looks like. And I threw it away. I threw you away. Marcus cleared his throat. Mrs. Walsh, we prepared to make this right. Whatever you need, a formal apology, compensation for the distress, a position on the board with full voting rights. We can restructure the company to give you more control, more input. Name your terms. I looked around the room at Marcus, desperate to save his company. At Sloane, crying over her cruelty. At Corbin, broken by his own weakness. 3 people who'd learned in one day that money wasn't the same as power. That wealth didn't equal worth. That the quiet woman they dismissed could end everything they'd built with a single signature. I'm not selling to Cole. The relief in the room was physical. Marcus actually swayed. Sloane sobbed. Corbin's knees buckled and he caught himself on the window frame. But I continued, I'm not leaving things as they are either. Marcus straightened. What do you mean? I've had my lawyer draft a trust. As of Monday morning, my shares in Montgomery Industries will be placed in that trust. Corbin will be named as the beneficiary. Corbin's head snapped up. What? But there are conditions. You don't get the shares immediately. You don't get them in 5 years. You don't get them until you've proven you understand what really matters. I don't understand. Marcus said the trust has specific requirements. Corbin has 5 years to complete them. If he does, the shares transfer to him. If he doesn't, everything goes to charity. Sloane stood up. What kind of requirements? I pulled out the folder my lawyer had sent over an hour ago. Handed it to Corbin. 5 years of community service work, not volunteer work, where you show up for photo ops. Real work. Working with people who struggle, people who don't fit into your world, people like the mother you tried to erase. Corbin opened the folder. His hands shook as he read. You'll work in homeless shelters, food banks, job training programs for people rebuilding their lives. You'll spend your evenings and weekends with people who have nothing. People who are fighting just to survive. People who might be waitresses from bad parts of town. Mom, I'll do it. Whatever it takes, I'll do it. I'm not finished. You'll also resign from Montgomery Industries immediately. You won't take a position in the family business until you've completed the trust requirements. You'll find your own job, your own apartment, your own way, the way I did, the way millions of people do every day. Marcus stepped forward. Mrs. Walsh, surely that's excessive. Corbin made a mistake, but he's apologized. He's my son-in-law now. He belongs in the company. He belongs nowhere until he earns it. That's the point, Marcus. That's what you've never understood. What all of you have never understood. Worth isn't given. It's earned through work, through sacrifice, through proving that you care about more than just your own comfort. I turned back to Corbin's. If you complete these 5 years, if you show me that you've learned what real value looks like, the shares are yours, you'll be a wealthy man, you'll have everything I built. But if you fail, if you take shortcuts, if you go back to thinking that money matters more than people, you get nothing. And I mean nothing. Not a dollar, not a share, nothing. That's my inheritance. His voice was hollow. No, your inheritance is what I already gave you. 25 years of showing you how to be a good person. You threw that away. This is your chance to earn it back. Sloane was crying again. What about me? What about our life together? We just got married. We were supposed to start building our future. Then build it. I looked at her directly. You wanted someone who adds value. Now you get to watch your husband earn his. You get to decide if you love Corbin Walsh the person or Corbin Walsh the trust fund. You get to prove whether you're the shallow woman I met today or someone capable of growth. She covered her face with her hands. Marcus sat down heavily. You're destroying my family. No, I'm teaching your family what my family never learned. That people matter more than things. That character matters more than comfort, that the waitress you dismiss might be the one holding your future in her hands. I set the trust documents on the coffee table. My lawyer will handle everything Monday morning. The shares transfer to the trust. Corbin has 5 years starting immediately. The clock is ticking. I turn to leave. Mom, wait. Corbin's voice stopped me. What about us? What about our relationship? I looked back at him, my son, my baby boy, the child I'd raised alone, the person I'd sacrificed everything for who'd grown up and decided I wasn't enough. That's up to you. If you want a relationship with me, you'll have to rebuild it the same way you'll have to rebuild everything else. From the ground up, through actions, not words, through choices, not promises. Can I call you when you have something worth saying? I walked out of that marble mansion, down that perfect driveway, past those manicured gardens. Got in my old Toyota with the rust spots and the sagging driver's seat. Drove back to my one-bedroom apartment in the bad part of town. The apartment where I'd chosen to live. The car I'd chosen to drive. The life I'd chosen to lead. Not because I had to, because I wanted to teach my son that you don't need wealth to have worth. He never learned that lesson when I tried to show him. Maybe he'd learn it now that he had to earn it. Inside my apartment, I made tea. Sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd made those decisions 25 years ago. To hide my wealth, to work those double shifts, to bleed into my shoes, to sacrifice comfort for character. It hadn't worked the way I'd planned. Corbin had learned the wrong lessons. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late for him to learn the right ones. My phone sat silent on the table. No more calls, no more messages, just quiet. The same quiet I'd lived in for 25 years. The quiet that came from knowing who you were and what you valued. The quiet that came from power held loosely, used carefully, deployed only when necessary. I'd played my hand. Not the way anyone expected, not the way revenge would have dictated, but the way that might actually.